Hi, I'm Dr. Sora Dubitsky, and I'm here with my dear friend and partner, Carol. And today we're talking about the orgasm deficit. There's been a lot in the news lately about the orgasm gap, which pertains to women, but we're going to be speaking about men as well.
My name is Caro, and if you guys haven't been here before, we are both part of Florida International University. She's a faculty member, and I'm a student. And I'm currently studying psychology, and Dr. Sora Dubitsky has a degree in the psychology of sexual behavior. We are here today to discuss what is missing. Why is it that people are not having orgasms? Why are they not talking about it? Why is there a lack of communication? And well, I think Sora's going to start us off with the cultural aspect of why it's missing.
Most of us, and when I say most of us, I mean not only my generation, but the current generation as well. Most of us grew up with a remarkably narrow definition of sex. The script often looks like this, foreplay, intercourse, male orgasm, sex over. Within this script, intercourse is treated as the main event and everything else is merely preparation. Yet, research consistently shows that most women do not reliably orgasm from penetration alone. Many require direct or indirect clitoral stimulation. Our culture continues to privilege male pleasure while often minimizing female pleasure. Women are frequently socialized to focus on their partner's satisfaction before their own. Many report worrying about taking too long, appealing demanding, or hurting partners' feelings by asking for what they need.
And that's where the communication comes in. It takes a very big, important part in sex. When you have a lack of communication, you don't know what to expect. You don't know what's going to happen. You don't, especially when you're having sex with someone for the first time, you're adapting to each other's pleasures and interests, kinks even, which we have another video about. But I've met many people, a good handful or so, who have never had an orgasm in their life, and they're already in their mid 20s, maybe even early 30s.
Please, I
Um,
know women in their 50s, 60s, 70s have not had an orgasm in their entire life. So age does not define the problem.
exactly. I say the age because it just goes to show, like, you've lived for so long, and it's sad because you haven't had the pleasure of having the big O.
Big O. An obstacle to orgasm is the idea they have to perform. One of my key phrases is performance versus presence. Men worry about erections, stamina, and how they perform. Women worry about their appearance, their responsiveness, whether they're taking too long. Both worry about pleasing their partner. Brain imaging studies show that orgasm requires a release of inhibition. Regions of the brain associated with vigilance, self-monitoring, and judgment become quieter during orgasm. In a very real sense, orgasm requires letting go.
Requires as well vulnerability and trust. And when you,
Trust is fundamental.
of course, and that's one of the key things that, you need to keep in mind when having sex with someone. If you're not vulnerable or if you don't trust that person, how are you going to be able to feel pleasure? Because it's a state of vulnerability that needs to be reached.
Emotional connection is really important. The brain can be anxious or it could be orgasmic, and this may explain why anxiety, stress, self-consciousness, and distraction interfere with pleasure.
The point that you touched about women worrying about the way they look during sex, it's very important to let that go and put that in another place, because if that's the most important thing in your mind in the moment, you're not going to be able to reach that level of satisfaction because body image concerns, messing up your hair, messing up your makeup, I mean, it's going to happen.
We talk, sex is messy.
It is.
Good sex is messy. And if you're worried about hair, makeup, or how you look, or even how you look down there,
Or even how you look when you orgasm. Like, people make faces, people make sounds, and it's completely normal and it's beautiful. It's something natural. It's a beautiful human
It's
experience of
part of,
connection.
yeah, it's part of the letting go
Yeah,
process. And then I call orgasm transcendence. I'm going to be posting an article on Substack. That experience of like you left your body, you're merging with the
transcendence.
universe. That you can't have that if you're worried about how you look. There was a study that found that 91% of men reported orgasm during the most recent sexual encounter compared to 64% of women. And that goes along with this idea of the orgasm gap. More men orgasm than women. And it's just, there's been more publicity about it recently, but it's been an ongoing pattern. Men also struggle. While less common than female orgasm difficulties, male orgasm problems do occur. Stress, performance anxiety, trauma, shame, antidepressants, medications, and excessive stimulation from pornography can all contribute to delayed or absent orgasm in men.
Very important to realize that overstimulating yourself, vision of porn can lead your mind to expect different things during sex and overall become a lot harder for you to have an orgasm with a person, which can end up being pretty sad because the whole point of sex is not to have an orgasm, but it's to have a connection with someone and to
Exactly.
have a good time too, you know?
And to have that merging, it's
Exactly.
like, we don't talk about that enough, but sex creates life. I mean, it's this really powerful energy. After teaching human sexuality for nearly 20 years, I've become convinced that we don't spend enough time teaching people how to relax. And we teach anatomy, we teach disease prevention. Not enough though, because I know like my students who come in, to class have no idea about anatomy.
I even
And
have met people who have children and they have never gotten tested for STIs or STDs. And that's really dangerous because you could think, as a woman, for instance, let's say you're gonna have sex with a guy and he's like, hey, I don't want to use a condom. Can I just pull out? My pull-out game is great. Because that's what they all say. Um,
and that's not a guarantee
and
at all.
not only is that not
At
a
all.
guarantee, but that puts you at a major risk to getting an STI or STD.
Right?
And if you don't inform yourself with these very important things, you could risk infertility, life-threatening even cases. Like if you manage to get AIDS, your life is not going to be as long as you would have wished for it to be. And that can be really sad.
And that the AIDS thing is a problem because the new medication does help prevent spreading it. But
Your health is still,
people think they're safe from the
no.
other sexually transmitted diseases that
Oh,
they
no.
can get,
No, no,
and they're not.
no.
So there's been an increase in syphilis, especially like syphilis. That's the 1800s. People died of syphilis, so there's been an increase. A little bit about the nervous system plays a crucial role in sexual functioning. The parasympathetic nervous system, the system associated with rest, relaxation, and restoration, supports arousal and orgasm. Yet modern life keeps us in a state of stress. So there's a breath that enables connection, enables relaxation, and enhances the possibility of having an orgasm. So it starts out, it's called the ah breath. Partners lie comfortably while one partner simply breathes and the other partner synchronizes their breathing to match. So it's like you're sharing one breath. Once the rhythm is established, the observing partner gently vocalizes ah on each exhale. The practice may sound simple, but many people report profound effects. This is used in tantric practices. Synchronizing the breath appears to calm the nervous system, increase relaxation, deepen connection, and awaken sensual awareness. The goal is not orgasm. The goal is openness. It's ironically when we stop chasing orgasm and start cultivating relaxation, connection, and presence, orgasm often becomes more available.
And natural.
And yeah, and natural.
Because that's another thing too that we had discussed at some point that due to lack of trust or lack of confidence, women usually fake their orgasms during intercourse with men, so it feels like they equally finished. But in most cases, they don't. And it's because there's a lack of importance put on how the woman is pleased. There's a large percentage of women who require more touching and clitoral stimulation and just different things than just intercourse or penetration.
So data that says women in love have better orgasms.
And that's objectivity.
So it's something to consider if someone is going to have a one night stand and that goes like to speaks to motivation. Like why do you want to have sex? If you're gonna go off with somebody you don't know and expect like fireworks, that may not happen. The most important lesson about orgasm is that it's about pleasure, not about competition. The goal is not to decide whether men or women have it harder. The goal is to understand what gets in the way of pleasure and intimacy. When we remove these barriers, sex becomes the transcendent experience, which we were talking about that it has the potential to be. In Intimacy, the Sacred Space Between Us, available on Amazon and Barnes& and Noble online. I mentioned the principles of intimacy. Seven, and the core principle is trust. So if you're with a partner you trust, then you can let go. You can feel safe enough. Or what was the word you're using? Vulnerability.
Yes, vulnerable.
You
It's very important.
you feel safe enough to be vulnerable. You feel safe enough to communicate and express what you need or would like to have done, or even you ask your partner what they need. If you trust someone, you can be authentic, which means, Carl was saying about, orgasm isn't pretty. People grimace and groan and
Make faces.
release bodily functions, but they're not afraid to do that because they trust the person that they're with, so they can be authentic. Empathy, I talk about empathy as when people get really, really sensitive, they can actually feel, energetically what their partner is experiencing. And it's almost like, tapping into a frequency of knowing what to do next without knowing that you know what to do next. It becomes like a dance. You're giving and taking equally. The orgasm gap is not simply how to have an orgasm, but how to create a life that is more open, more connected, and more pleasurable
For both parties
for both parties.
or
So
multiple.
I could be found on Substack. I post weekly under drsardubitsky.substack.com. I also teach A Course in Miracles, which is a spiritual discipline. And one of these days we'll do something on what does spirituality and sexuality have to do with one another. And there's a lot. Please share, please subscribe. The more viewers we have, the more likely this message of positive sexuality it will spread. That's one of our missions.
Yeah, of course. If you find this video relatable at all, please leave a comment down below on any other possible topics that we could cover in future videos. If you may know someone who has never had an orgasm or who's interested in knowing more about how orgasms work, please send them this video so it can reach other people, and leave a like, subscribe so you can watch more of
Right.
our videos. Well, thank you for watching again, and we'll see you soon. Bye.
Bye.